food is alligator, and that's enough said.
Giant pickle.
It's cotton candy and corn.
My favorite fair food is alligator, and that's enough said.
Welcome back.
Feel bad for those kids.
To another edition of Enough Said. My name is Dan Barreiro. I am one of the hosts of the program. Justin Gaard is with me this week, and Lori Fisher with us as well. And Lori, very emotional because the State Fair that you barely attend, by the way, is almost in the rearview mirror.
I'm still in State Fair mode.
I'm trying to be. We're out there every day.
No communication on the wardrobe today.
There was some miscommunication.
I
told Dan, and Dan was supposed to tell you.
There was no communication.
Here's what I knew was going to happen. Even though earlier, before the show, Lori said, well, ultimately, it's my responsibility. I knew that once the lights were turned on, she'd go, I'm going to throw Dan under the bus. It's just so predictable.
And I'll say, by the way, go ahead, Lori.
Well, I was going to say, or we shouldn't have said anything and pointed out that you're wearing the polo, and maybe people would have just thought.
This is the State Fair attire. We've done it for multiple years on Enough Said. And the State Fair, even though you won't go back, Lori, is still going on. So I'm representing the State Fair today, and I might even do it next week, too.
I went for one day, and I gave it my all. That's like a high energy.
That's a contradiction in terms.
But I do want to get to some breaking news, Dan.
Well, no, I don't, because I'm bitter, because I caved too easily to you saying we can't possibly wear the Enough Said polos 2 straight weeks. So I am responsible.
I thought it was a lot. I'm sorry. I'm just going to be
2
honest
weeks,
with that. I thought that we really.
Is the fair continuing?
It's on right now.
Is it still on right now?
Okay, well, we need to move on, but I do have some breaking news that you don't even know about this.
Do we have a breaking news sounder?
I wish we did.
All right.
Enough Said nominated 3rd year in a row for a Midwest Emmy.
Wow.
3rd year in a row?
Under the interview and discussion category, and we will find out in October.
Is this the year?
If this is the year.
It won't be the year.
We're nominated again.
Don't get your hopes up, boys and girls. I'm just telling you.
Do we know who we're up against?
Yes, we do. Would you like to know? We're up against a Vikings story.
Okay, we should beat them.
A story on Senator Klobuchar.
And
a story on Marcus Foligno.
Oh, I like our chances.
Yes.
We might have a shot at
it this year. I like our chances.
So
this is the year.
3 out of 4 sportsy, so.
I thought we've already been nominated 3 times.
We may have, but this is the 3rd year in a row.
3rd year in a row.
Nominated a lot.
I see.
We've never won.
Okay, we have to get going though on the show.
Okay,
let's not belabor ourselves and how high we are in ourselves and our accomplishments here.
We'll just bring it up 2 more times.
Okay.
The Gopher football team kicked off their season Thursday night and won big time. The Gophers dominated New Mexico State 38-0. And yes, Coach Fleck and Coach Kill did shake hands. Everyone was very concerned if that was going to happen. Minnesota plays Western Illinois next Saturday. Overall thoughts on the first game, Dan?
Well, my overall thoughts are on the handshake. The game was extremely predictable and boring. The Gophers did everything that you want the superior team to do, which is dominate start to finish. And that's why it should all be about the handshake. And I believe, Justin, you were there.
Yep.
I believe it's a misrepresentation to say
Jerry's trying to get away.
They shook hands.
There he is.
No, what happened is P.J. Fleck forced a handshake, thereby leaving Jerry Kill with no choice. It wasn't like, well, both of them just happily shook hands. No, Jerry Kill was boxed in a genius move by PJ, who didn't leave him anywhere to go with any choice. He comes off as the guy who takes the high road. Deep down, PJ may despise everything Jerry has said about him. And that's the beauty of this, because in effect, to me, PJ makes Jerry look worse because Jerry is the guy who should have done what PJ did. Genius.
Everything that happened Thursday, it happened exactly how I thought. I assumed New Mexico State's an overmatched opponent, right?
Completely.
And they had to play on Saturday night, which is a factor. We watch Thursday night football in the NFL every week. A lot of times those teams don't play very well. So on the field stuff, exactly what I thought. Nice to see Mo Ibrahim back. Nice to see Tanner Morgan throw it a little bit. But the off the field, I guess technically on field with the handshake, also went exactly as I expected. Because if there's one thing PJ can do, he's smart enough to know, for all the stuff he does that might bug some people, he knows when he's got the upper hand, and he knew that the last couple of weeks he had the upper hand.
Which is why it said nothing.
Yes, exactly.
Basically, he let everybody else do the ripping that they were doing, and he's letting Jerry just drown in his own nonsense and his own paranoia.
He handled it about as well as you could, including after the game, basically also saying, I thanked him for everything he's done for my career. I've never had a bad thing to say about him publicly, although I've never heard him say anything bad privately either. But you get my point. He handled it, I think, about as well as you could. And now the beauty of it, Dan, as we've said on the radio, we don't have to talk about this anymore.
30 seconds.
We've talked about it for 3 weeks. I'll take the responsibility for some of it because we blew it out of proportion, or I certainly did a couple of weeks ago. But then Jerry kept doing interviews and kept saying
You turned it
things.
into a war crime, for crying out loud.
I did a little bit, but now I'm ready to go. Now we've all made our point.
Yeah.
It's time to move on. We can actually get into the guts of the season and actually talk about football here at some point.
The beauty of this for me, again, though, is PJ, I think, deep down knows that by doing it the way he did it, he made Jerry Kill look worse, which in his mind, deep down, even though he might not ever admit it, he might be loving. That's the genius of the move he made. Because he can just say, no.
Yeah.
I just tried to rise above it.
He took the high road.
Take the tension out of the whole
guy.
situation, and let's move on with the rest of our lives. And we got another cream puff next week, right?
Western Illinois,
Before we
we're
get
going to
to
move
some
on.
serious games. Okay.
Correct.
The Twins swept the Giants last weekend, and then 2 out of 3 games they took against the Red Sox. It's the White Sox this weekend, followed by the Yankees. The Twins are still in second in the American League Central. Justin.
They're right there. It's a game back as we tape this, which is miraculous. I'm still not a total believer. I still think you got to go try to get into the postseason,
Sure
Dan.
you do. Yeah.
Even though, as we've talked about before, you've got football starting, the winter sports are about to start. The Twins have kind of been off the radar, but they are taking advantage of the schedule now. They've got Chicago this weekend, which should be good for them, right? Chicago's kind of been in a tailspin. I think Cleveland plays Seattle, who's a pretty good team. So I'm kind of curious how it's playing in Cleveland, that other teams are kind of imploding around them, including the Twins the last 10 days or so. I know they played well this last week, obviously, but the fact that they haven't run away with this thing, despite the Twins' best efforts, they still have a remarkable chance here with all these games against Cleveland, all these games against Chicago. They could be in first place by the end of the weekend if Seattle handles Cleveland and the Twins handle Chicago.
Well, here's what's interesting. If you go back to the trade deadline, my recollection is the White Sox and the Guardians did almost nothing.
Correct.
So from the Cleveland standpoint, they can look at it differently and say, we did nothing. We didn't sacrifice
That's
any
true.
of our prospects, any of the future. And here we are still sitting in a position where we can win this thing. The Twins, I've almost reached a point. Somebody stopped me at the State Fair and said, how should we feel about this team? And I'm almost past being frustrated by them. I'm almost at a point where you just say,
we'll see what happens.
Enjoy the rest of the season.
Yep.
And how this plays out, because at this point they kind of are what they are, and it's been disappointing post deadline or post the trade deadline
Yep.
and the moves they made. We've talked about that before, but there's a part of me that says, well, why sweat it? It's sort of what they are, and the only remaining question is, can you do your business against Cleveland, Chicago this weekend, as you said, and you've got the Yankees. So that's another example of, even though we hate the Yankees and they beat us all the time, we're not doing a good job against any good teams.
Right.
So can we change that narrative, to use that word? Can we turn that in another direction where you say, all right, it's not just that they are looking better and recovering against, sub 500 teams, which
30.
is what they did the last 2 series. Can they give us some hope that in this last month they can do something once they get in the postseason again? That's all that's left.
Right.
And I'm not all that optimistic about it with the injury issues, the pitchers who are still out, even though they've had this nice little surge over the course of the last week.
Yeah, if they do it against a good team, it'll be the first time this season that they've done it. And
Enough
then
said.
you would have very little faith in the postseason. I still think you get there, give it a shot.
Yeah, absolutely.
Turn on to next season.
All right, Serena Williams is still winning. She made it to the second round of the U.S. Open, dominating the third and final set, beating the number 2 seed. Afterwards, she said, these moments are fleeting. It's still unclear whether this will be the final tournament of her career, Justin.
I think it probably will be. It's interesting you brought up the fleeting comment because she's been around forever, obviously, the mid-'90s. I mean, I was in high school when she won her first U.S. Open. And for some reason, this does all feel abrupt. I don't know. It might be because she hasn't played much this year, 6 matches,
Right.
but the energy is off the charts. I mean, the U.S. Open at night has its own energy. When a star plays there, it goes up a notch. When a legend plays there, it goes up a notch. And when there's a legend who might be there for the final time, it's absurd. And she's waking up the echoes. She played unbelievable the other night against the number 2 player in the world. And coming back after losing the second set, everybody thinks, okay, water finds its level.
Yep.
Things are going to get normal. She's almost 41 years old and hasn't played much this year. But what did Rudy T say? Rudy Tomjanovich, never underestimate the heart of a champion. And now the narrative is flipped already. If she wins tonight, people are going to think she can win the tournament, which is still unlikely. But it's amazing. It's a great swan song. And what a perfect place to have it happen at the U.S. Open.
I think the quote I saw from her was, I have nothing to prove and nothing to lose.
True.
And it so perfectly conveys. You talk about a champion talking. And you know me, I'm much more casual tennis guy than you.
Right.
Tennis of this current day. I happened upon the broadcast, and then I couldn't leave it.
Yeah.
I couldn't leave it because part of it, the awakening for me, because I'm sure already knew this, is the level, both players, the level of power in their strokes, in their games. That is not something that I'm familiar with from the women's game. And it was remarkable to watch. And as you say, it almost felt like as she got past losing the second set, it was almost like something else, just kind of triggered.
Yep.
And she basically, if she ever forgot who she is, which I doubt she does.
30 seconds.
It's almost like she remembered it. And it was great TV, because now it's more than a nostalgia tour at that point. Because everybody that was there, right, is thinking, well, she's probably going to lose. We'll cheer her. We'll give her the send-off that she deserves. She's a mythic tennis character. And then she wins it. That's about as much good theater as you could ask.
When she hit that swinging forehand volley to go at 5-2 in the third and the place erupts, I mean, that's legit goosebumps. Like, I was watching it, legit goosebumps and FOMO, because I wish I was there. It was amazing.
And America doesn't spend as much time giving her the credit she deserves.
Still to come, Vikings have their 53 guys. It's all set. Are we pro a Twitter edit button, Dan?
Oh, this is going to be a good one. I'm going to have fun with this one.
And the lake home, I think we should all go in on together.
All I know is I'm really darn excited about not only the 53 guys we have on our team, but plus the guys that we feel like will make an impact off of that practice squad for our team.
Welcome back to Emmy nominated. Enough said.
Again.
The Vikings cut down the roster, cutting most of their 2021 draft picks, including quarterback Kellen Mond. The Vikings traded for wide receiver Jalen Reagor from the Eagles. As we know, the team plays the Packers here at home on September 11th, home opener on Fox 9. We can't say it enough. We are very excited, Dan.
I hate the open week. I'm not excited about that.
I know.
It does bug me.
I feel like there's a vibe in the air.
I agree. I think you lose a little of that momentum. And it's not like people are going to forget the season is coming. Once we get closer to September 11th in that game, especially because of who the opponent is, there's going to be great interest, all kinds of good coverage on Fox 9 and on KFAN on our show, Bumper to Bumper. It's afternoons,
3 to 6:30.
Monday through Friday, Sunday sermons, 9 o'clock, Cake Show, 11 to 1. There's all the promotions out of the way. I'm encouraged by this administration's ability to say, look, we do believe there's an important need to have a legitimate backup quarterback. Do they have it in Mullins, the guy they went out and acquired? Well, I don't think we know that, but we know he's better
than what they had,
than the options they had.
Yep.
And the previous regime, basically, post Case Keenum, despite what that lesson should have proven, gave up at that position. So I like that. I like they went out and got Reagor, the receiver. They also, I believe, got a defensive lineman. I do like that this is a staff, I think, that's going to look around and always try to improve and if you want to call those taking risks, really not, because of the draft choice involved.
Right.
I like all of that. The people who are lauding them for having the guts to do what Zimmer and Spielman didn't do on Kellen Mond, they're making it up as they go along, because it is always easier to get rid of somebody else's draft picks. They don't have anything invested. Their ego doesn't take a hit. So we'll find out if these guys are good at looking in the mirror about their own picks when they're here 2 or 3 years, and we'll see if indeed they're better than the last staff at being too stubborn about holding on to players that just aren't that good.
They did exactly what they should have done in the Mond situation, is give him a look, give him a shot.
Yeah.
And they had the whole offseason. You can't say that he did not get ample opportunity to prove that he was worth keeping. So I have no problem with that either. And same thing with Amir Smith-Marset, who was in the mix for a wide receiver spot.
And returner,
That's it. They tried to give, and he did that well in college. It wasn't working out here in the NFL. So I like the fact that they are tinkering, they're trying.
Yes.
And I like the fact that they're not beholden to draft choices either, even though they traded down too far for either one of our likings, I think, in this year's first round, and maybe even wanted to trade more and were talked out of it there late. The fact that they're willing to, I'm okay giving up some of those late round draft picks. Go get something more established to try to fill some type of need. You're 100% right about the break, and why the break right now feels so long, because we really haven't had anything unique to talk about, Dan, since when did they start camp? July 25th? July 27th? The shiny new toy. Here's camp. Here's what we got. We're doing some scrimmages, but we haven't had anything to bounce off of on preseason football because nobody's played. And by the way, I'm fine with that, but it's just amazing that we've gone basically 6 weeks with nothing really to discuss except these different kind of moves.
And next Friday,
Real quick.
we'll break it down.
Oh.
Then we can really get serious
Dive
about
into it.
Packers, Vikings. I cannot
I'm
wait.
sure Aaron Rodgers will have done another podcast in the interim, another interview, very Jerry
doubt.
Kill-like fashion, continuing to put himself out there for
And
controversial comments.
Can we also, Lori, I have a question for you.
Well, I was just going to tell you, make sure that you are dressed appropriately for Vikings on Friday night.
Just send me the note. All you have to do is
Okay,
tell
and
me.
yes, Dan.
Here's a procedural question, because you're the Fox 9 regular. You've been here forever, and you know all the rules. 'cause
Senior executive
you're
producer.
a senior executive producer. Would it be legal for us on next week's show to sip from ayahuasca tea during the broadcast? Would that be legal? And then just see what impact it might have on the show itself?
Well, we do tape the show, so we could give it a try and then see what happens,
Okay.
and then we could do some editing. So maybe.
Because I think it's illegal here.
I mean,
in this country.
Oh, well,
So I
then
don't
I'm
wanna
going to
break
say
any
no
laws.
then. I'm going to say no.
Probably not.
Okay, we need to move on. Mikhail
It cost
Gorbachev.
us the Emmy, maybe.
Gorbachev passed away at the age of 91. The former Soviet leader will be buried this weekend. President Biden called him a man of remarkable vision and that his reforms led to a safer world and greater freedom for millions of people. Dan?
Well, this is hard probably for either one of you to understand, because I doubt that either one of you ever had a drill in your elementary school during which the drill was get down beneath your desk and put your hands over your head.
Right.
And this is going to be our nuclear war drill to what you're going to do if the air raid sirens go off. By the way, it was rather comical, because if you get nuked at that school,
Did you know that as a kid?
If your arms
Did you
or
even
put your
know
arms
that
up.
was kind of stupid?
Deep down, we probably
Yeah.
did. But that's
I get the point.
the legacy here of, if you grew up in the belief that there could be mutual mass destruction here. If you grew up with the Cuban Missile Crisis, where we seemed to be on the brink of nuclear war with the old Soviet Union, the commies that we hated. The idea that this guy came in, Gorbachev, to try to, within limitations, he wasn't perfect at it, to sort of change all of that calculus and to open things up there and to take all that pressure away. That's what for my generation, I think, and even folks maybe a little younger, that's what he stands for. An attempt from the big bad Soviets to open things up, change things, and maybe seem to take some of the tension out of the world. Unfortunately, Putin's in charge,
right?
Well, of a Russia where it seems like he's trying to get the old Soviet Union band back together. But that's what Gorby represented, an opening,
Enough said.
encouraging idea that we're not on the brink of killing each other.
And he came here because he was asked.
He was
I am
one
old
of
enough
us.
to remember that,
Yeah.
and I remember how momentous that was and how momentous that felt.
It was like a rock star coming to town.
Yeah.
Twitter is finally testing an edit button. Many of us have wanted it for years. Twitter, well, I would, because sometimes I spell things wrong. Twitter Blue users would get it first in late September, but it could cause pose some problems. I know we have a lot of questions, but it sounds like you would only have up to 30 minutes to change your tweet. And if you don't know what Twitter is, because us in the news business, we all use it, but not many of my friends have Twitter. I mean, they're all Instagram or Facebook.
They're more
so.
so.
Not everyone has a Twitter account, but it will also be flagged when it was edited so that we know that it was edited. Justin, what do you support this?
I do.
Would you like the edit button?
I would, because there are enough typos, there are enough issues, and I think a lot of times you realize it almost immediately, or someone tells you almost immediately that you screwed something up and you blew it. It never made sense to me why they didn't allow it, given how I think easy it should be. It's easy to delete everything else in real life, so I never understood why we didn't have this. I'm sure there'll be some unintended consequences. I'm sure this isn't going to be perfect. Technology rarely is, but I'm fine getting an edit button because the typos are bothersome every once in a while, Lori. I understand how that can feel.
The typos are, I couldn't agree more, but what slays me is I saw somebody offered up this sort of Twitter observation on Twitter. Well, let's say somebody says, I like Cocker Spaniels, and then they edit it to, I like Dachshunds instead. And what about all those likes, all those people?
It's lightning round time. Say it isn't so. Is J-Lo to blame for potential issues with the Mark Lori A-Rod Timberwolves deal? This broke earlier this week, but the New York Post claims A-Rod is struggling to match Lori's money to purchase the team. They're supposed to be equal partners. The New York Post says when the two teamed up, A-Rod was with Lopez, and that may have helped seal the deal. Justin?
I don't know how much validity there is to any of this.
I think it might be clickbait.
It's a little bit of clickbait. It's J-Lo, right? It's A-Rod. I'm sure there's an Affleck nugget in here, but if any team in the history of Minnesota sports could have a very promising ownership regime change ruined because of Jennifer Lopez, it's the Timberwolves, is it not? I mean, it feels like it should be true. I don't think it is. A-Rod does need more money. That's factual. Lori is
So is the
kicking some of
implication
it.
he would have had more money if he hadn't had the split
Maybe.
where they split
Yeah.
up all their massive
Yes.
fortunes? They didn't have a prenup?
I don't think they were ever married.
They weren't married.
Oh,
They
that's
were
right. They were never married.
Okay, next
They were
up.
engaged.
You're right.
But this is so Timberwolvesian
Yeah, it is.
that it almost feels like it has to be true, even though there's some gray areas.
Well, we talked about
More Glenn Taylor. That's all. We're all looking forward to that.
We talked about Coach Fleck earlier. He's selling his lake house in Mound on Lake Minnetonka, 6,000 square feet, 5 bedrooms, 7 bathrooms. $2.8 million if you want it turnkey. And I've been emailing with Heather Hansen with Coldwell Banker Realty. She tells me it is a great home for the next owner. Cooks
Wow,
Bay,
are you getting
quiet,
are you getting
clean.
a percentage?
And, well, that's what I said. If we sell it after the show, I was asking for a little bit of commission. But I was thinking us 3 could go in on it. How fun would that be? And there's a lot of oars and a beautiful view.
By the way, when you say $2.8 million if you want it turnkey, you're saying if you didn't want it turnkey, you could get it for like 2.2? What does that mean?
I'm not sure. It might be a little
You
less.
just like
but
that turnkey.
I would
You
want
just
the
want it to be a
turnkey because I like all the
Yeah.
furniture.
Well, I know
in it
they
right
put
now.
a lot of work into it.
Yes, they did. I
They've
remember
used-
that.
They've used it a lot
Yeah.
for recruiting. Let's just say this.
Is that
Lori.
legal?
Yes, because it's 30 miles away from campus. If
Wow.
I know the laws.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
If we
I don't
went
doubt
in
it.
on this, Lori, Dan would be the Mark Lori to our A-Rod. we would need him to take a couple
Our
extra
kids,
percentage.
I can imagine your kids on the dock, Justin.
Oh,
and
me
we're out
too.
on the
Will you-
jet skis.
will you guys be
and
willing to just stay in the
Gia's
lower level?
fishing.
Yeah, I
That's
think we
fine.
just get our own
Just
level.
stay in the lower level.
Yeah.
Just don't talk to us. Don't
And
have
there's
anything to do
7
with us.
bathrooms, enough for all of us. Okay,
Yeah.
the State Fair is coming to an end. A few days to check out new foods, rides, all the entertainment. Best fair memory for you guys so far?
The one day you were there.
Oh, thanks.
The one day out of the 12.
Well,
I think it's been a great fair. For us on the radio, Dan, I think this has been one of our best fairs. I've
It's been
enjoyed
really
it
good.
every
But I
single day.
actually thought for us last year's fair was quite good.
Agreed.
too.
Agreed.
I don't think we've had very many bad fairs.
We haven't. But this one
because
feels particularly good to me.
It's gone. What the crowds have? I don't think the crowds have been extraordinary. I don't know what the attendance figures are going to end up showing, but I think they've been very good. And you know, for us, it's a great opportunity to get great guests out
Meet
there.
the fans,
Yep.
too.
We need
Meet the
Lori.
listeners.
I think Lori's just got to get more used to being in front of our audience.
In front of people.
I know, I was
Yeah.
very nervous.
You
Okay,
were
finally,
exceedingly
this isn't even my fair memory. It's Fox 9 Amy Hockert's fair
Ooh,
memory.
this is
She
funny.
was walking, she posted this photo. She was walking to her car after the show when Kirk Cousins says, this is what she tweeted. A guy walks past me and says, Fox 9 News, we love local news. It took her a second to register. She figured out it was Kirk. She chased him down, got the selfie, and I know she needed a little time to recover from that fangirl moment.
Well,
had some
Again,
moments
not
at
my
the fair.
memory, but a great memory.
I was there with her when she met Jason Mraz. Got a picture with him there. She's had some brushes with the stars out there.
Yeah, living the Hockert
those
life.
brushes never happen with us? Do you think? I don't
hard to
remember.
say.
Did Kirk ever? He didn't stop by our booth, did he?
No, that would have been a good cameo.
Yeah,
Well,
that would
he
have been.
can-
Or maybe he
visit you on
did, and we
Sunday.
were talking to Monty Creason's Traveling Reptile Show, and we had to bump.
possible,
So, sorry,
yeah.
we got the reptiles here, Kirk.
Yeah.
Can you come back tomorrow?
Well,
And you
got
guys,
a few more days to go out there and get selfies with Dan and Justin.
We'll
Give
see.
them some love.
Emmy-nominated show. You can come take
Emmy
pictures
nominated.
with 4-time Emmy-nominated.
we'll see
Never
you at the
won.
fair all weekend, Lori. Can't wait to see you back out there with us.
I might stop by.
Of course you will.
Is this the year we win?